Hi, in a previous video I said that the money being pumped into the mental health service is being put in the wrong places. The way it used to be funded, I don't know whether it's still the same, but when I was still in the loop, it was the mental health trust would get paid for each new referral. So what would happen, so they could get more money, would be they would get a service user well enough to be discharged, but not completely well enough. They would end up relapsing and being referred again into the service, and the mental health trust would get money for that new referral. It's not the way it should be run. I hope it isn't how it's being run now, but I assume it is. And the money going to voluntary mental health services, things like the local mind branches, because local mind branches aren't actually mind, they are supported by national mind, they are their own entities. Those services were being incentivized to only provide services, or their funding was dependent on services that would get you back, get your service users back into employment. That was also setting people up to fail, because it wasn't can they get back into work, is they have to work. So I was part of a service user research project quite a while ago, and we went round and we were asking people a simple question: if funding was totally irrelevant, if the money was there for whatever, what would you like your mental health service to be? And the answers we got back were many and varied, but sort of come down to three different types, and would have been cheap and would have been effective. And I'm going to go into a bit of that now. The three groups were self-help groups, so lots of people with depression coming together to discuss how they're feeling, coping strategies and all that. Activity groups, I was with a whole group of Asian women during the research project. I was the facilitator for that group, and they wanted activities like shopping groups, so they could go out shopping, not necessarily grocery shopping, but maybe going up to London to do some shopping, or that sort of thing. Or another group came up with a photography group or an art group, or things like that, or an interest group. So maybe not so much an activity or a self-help thing, but where you sit around and you talk about, I don't know, history or philosophy or UFOs, whatever, an interest group, but something that would help them. And what we came up with was, not only do those groups, would they need those groups, but they'd need the training to help them set them up. Now, these types of groups, when run by mental health service users, would build independence from the NHS and voluntary mental health services. It would build their confidence, and help towards their recovery where it is possible, or at least coping with their condition. It can also help build transferable skills and perhaps even employment-related skills, depending on what type of role you had in that group. Not only would those sort of groups take pressure off the NHS mental health services, leaving them to deal with just the most serious cases, but even if they didn't get everyone into work, the activities of the groups would help reduce costs on the mental health services, reduce the need for those services except for those most serious cases, and the money spent on the activities or whatever that the groups undertook would help the economy too. But those sort of groups would need support too. Most such groups fail because one person gets saddled with all the responsibility to keep that group going, and when they can't cope or they become ill, the group fails. So you need to have an organisation run by mental health service users that can provide support for those smaller groups. And that would be key to the success of those smaller groups, and puts independence and dignity at the heart of mental health service user service provision. Now, as I said, I was part of a group that did research in my local county. While I was part of that, and based on all the information and the data we gathered, I came up with a plan for such an organisation, a large organisation that could help the smaller ones keep going and to come into existence in the first place. I took ideas from whoever I came across that was from other service users, other organisations that were run by service users, and I looked at their best practice. And I wrote a plan that would have helped mental health service users and the economy, because it would have presented opportunities for employment, both paid and voluntary, and support for mental health service users in general, and help to keep those self-help groups, activity groups and interest groups going, rather than failing like they usually do because of that one person being saddled with everything. I lay claim only to the assembling and writing of the plan. I do not lay claim to have come up with all the ideas. Like I said, it was based on everything that we did on the project a few years ago now. I'm ready to talk to anyone who could make it happen, because we need that sort of thing. If you want to get people back into work, people with mental health problems to get back into work, those that might be able to, you need to put the money where it will do the most good. Putting it in mental health services is fine. But when they have a vested interest in either patching you up, chucking you out, and then get a re-referral, or they build dependence on those services, then it's not helping. What you need is something that helps mental health service users become independent. I know it works because I've seen and heard from organisations that are run by mental health service users and are done with very little backup from non-sufferers of mental ill health. And like I said, it could be economically more effective, and it leaves the NHS services, which are chronically underfunded, to deal with only the worst cases, the ones that cannot be helped in any other way. These groups may not be able to get everyone into work, but it would still help people to cope better with their lives. And then you wouldn't be seen as they wouldn't be seen as such a burden, because even if they're not in work, they are doing something productive with their time. If you are interested in videos like this, and if you found this one interesting, please click the like button and subscribe and press the notification bell for more videos on many different subjects. I don't like to limit myself to any. And if there is anyone out there who's in a position to maybe help get us started, at least, I have the plans still. I don't want any, I don't claim ownership of the plan or all the ideas in it, but I would like to be known as the person who put the plan together. So if you're one of those people who can help, and I'm talking mainly to our elected officials, I'm quite willing to talk to someone, but it's got to be good faith, in good faith, because all the research that we came up with came to naught. And service users do not want any more disappointments. So, hope to catch you on the next vid, and I'll see you soon, hopefully.